want you to. Brown baby, brown baby, as you grow up, I want you to drink from the plenty cup. I want you to stand there tall and proud. I want you to speak out clear and loud, brown baby. Micah 6:8. God said, and what man do I require of you? To love justice, to love mercy, and to walk humbly before your God. Ooh, you should have seen them people that day. Hundreds of people, just like this here. Ooh, they was lining up the steps of the Supreme Court, Washington, D.C. Oh, look at that. Howard Law students over there. Look at that. All the people, look at them, all them people coming to find out what the court case is going to settle. See, they're up in there talking about Brown versus the Board of Education. That's right. What you said? You said the black doll test was there. That Thurgood Marshall, he pulled out all the ammunition. Black doll test. They took a black doll and a white doll, and they had an experiment. They had about, I don't know how many children, but they all lined up. And one by one, they brought them in the office. And they asked the question, which doll is the prettiest? What doll do you prefer? What doll do you look the most like? What doll do you want? 65% of those children did not choose the black doll. Just think about it. Think about it like the jury did and the Justice Warren did that day. Just think about it. 1896, Plessy versus Ferguson. Black man named Plessy went to Louisiana and sat on the railroad car, just as bold. Ferguson and the state of Louisiana said, this can't be. We're going to have trains now separate but equal. In fact, everything is going to be separate but equal. Well, Thurgood Marshall, he decided, oh, no. Look at all those children who chose the white doll. All those black children did not see the worth inside of them. Segregation is dangerous to our black children at this critical age when they're in elementary school. We're going to have to overturn this verdict. 14th Amendment, separate but equal, equal rights, just mercy. Justice Warren decided we are not going to have our children attend substandard schools, based also on that Oliver versus Topeka Act. Topeka, Kansas. That was the head legal case. That's right. But Thurgood Marshall, he was smart. He brought the best child psychologists out. He brought the highest ranking clinical specialists out. He had all the best of the best, the smartest people judge that case. They couldn't say our children were not damaged. They couldn't say this law had to be overturned. Read about it. 14th Amendment. Read about it, everybody. You know, there were 4 other cases he put together. Right there in Washington, D.C., there was a case called Barling versus Washington, D.C. District. But it being a district had to have a different judge. But you see, the parents didn't say too much. And the parents that had more money, you know, they were getting paid higher just so they wouldn't try to stop segregation. But a barber got 11 children, and he brought them up to the brand new junior high school. Little Barling's little junior high school child said, "Oh my goodness, did you see the floors in that gym? They were shining, and they got 3 gyms here. And the classroom size is so big. They could fit 4 of my classrooms in this one classroom." Oh, he was really, really, really telling the neighborhood. And that's why they decided we better listen to this young man. You see, Thurgood Marshall and another lawyer went all over the South, and they picked up the strongest cases. Delaware, Bueller versus Gephardt. South Carolina, Elliott versus the Board of Education. He even went to Farmville, Virginia. Now, Farmville, Virginia was a place where, only went to the 11th grade for a long time. What do children need an education for? They're not going to be doing nothing but picking tobacco in the fields. They don't need to be taught how to read and write. They don't need no 12th grade. Besides, it might give them an advantage over the white students. So what happened is that the Farmville Black Women's Association, they saved money, a lot of money. They made sure that their children would all have a 12th grade in 1947. So didn't you know children from counties all around, they crowded into that one school. A little girl, her name, if I may say, I may not say it right now, but she was a Johns. And you know there was a Vernon Johns at the Dexter Street Baptist Church before Dr. Martin Luther King went there. Well, this little girl was taught by her uncle how to make the picket signs, how to protest without fighting with your fist. And she taught the other children, and they made the signs, and they picketed because that school, the foundation was crumbling under their feet. When it rained, they had to bring out the pots and pans to capture the rain. It was awful. Tar paper and the annexes, because the school just kept on growing. But the government did not fix it up. Well, 2 weeks of picketing, and as a result of Brown versus the Board of Education, years later, they shut the school down for 5 years. Oh yeah, there was going to be some backlash. Backlash against that wonderful, wonderful verdict. Backlash in Arkansas. National Guard called out. National Guard called out, but the State Guard called out second by the President of the United States. Alabama, you all know him, George Wallace, facing down National Guardsmen. It was the law of the land, 1955, that indiscriminately, with immediate speed, all schools in America will be integrated. That's what Marshall said. Brown versus the Board of Education, too. Well, and then that was that little boy who would always sleep in the classroom. See, he had to walk about 5.5 miles to school by the time he got there. He was pooped out. No school bus. Well, read about it. But I'm sure all of you will be strengthened to know that brown baby, as you grow up, you're going to drink from the plenty cup. I want you to stand there tall and proud. I want you to speak out clear and loud. Brown baby.
Wow. Wow. Give it up for Carolyn Evans. Carolyn Evans. Wasn't that wonderful? Carolyn Evans. Guys, you know, storytelling matters. You know, storytelling is how history breathes. Storytelling is how our memory survives, how truth travels when our textbooks fail us. Good afternoon. I am J. Dwayne Garnett, and welcome to Inspirations in Integration, presented by and in partnership with the town of Fuquay-Varina and the Black History Stakeholders Committee. Can we give it up for them? Well, today we gather not simply to remember history, but to honor courage. We reflect on a pivotal time in the Fuquay-Varina area when students from Fuquay-Varina Consolidated High School integrated with Fuquay-Varina High School. Then, when Chowtown integrated with Lafayette High School, later becoming Harnett Central High School. See, this is not just about a shift in buildings. It is about a shift in atmosphere, a shift in relationships, a shift in access. And sometimes change arrives before preparation even gives us an opportunity to receive it. And this afternoon, it is about anticipation, resilience, faith, and inspiration. It is about students, educators, families, and communities that change during a defining moment in our national history. Through storytelling, which you've heard from Carolyn Evans, song, spoken word, and even a panel discussion, we will hear firsthand accounts from those who lived it. Sometimes when we think about history, we think about those who have already transitioned, correct? But I want to be clear. We are one generation from a lot of this that is happening. My mom lived through this. Many of our parents lived through this, and many of you have lived through this. This is not about nostalgia. This is about responsibility. Because what we learn from yesterday shapes how we prepare for tomorrow. Now, in that same vein, we're about to hear from one of our living legends and legacy in this area, Mr. George Kimball. See, before integration came identity. Before transition came tradition. Every school has a spirit, a sound, a song that carries its pride. And you, my friends, are about to experience the legacy of Fuquay-Varina Consolidated High School that not only lives in memory, but lives in melody. Please join me in welcoming Mr. George Kimball, class of 1964, as he performs the Bison Song. Come on and put those hands together, my friends.
Thank you. Would you all please rise? Those feel comfortable, you could help me out on this song. High upon the hilltop listening, mid stop and surprise supreme, stand our campus Fuquay High School, nothing dims that shine. Sing our praises, resound our phrases through the hall of time. We will always love and cherish thee, Fuquay, we are thine. Honor is for what we'll strive, ambitions will take us through. If we can acquire more knowledge, we'll have mergers too. Sing thy praises, resound our phrases through the hall of time. We will always love and cherish thee, Fuquay, we are thine. Scholarships and service to success our days will lead. All the round and rageous colors will be true to thee. Sing thy praises, resign thy phrases through the hall of time. We will always love and cherish thee, Fuquay, we are thine.
I wasn't even from that era, and I get chills just hearing it, right? There's something about song, right? But there's something about history, there's something about passion, and there's something about the stories that we tell through history. Wow, give it up for Mr. George Kimball. Now we're about to enter into wow. And guys, y'all gonna have to work with me because during this panel discussion, I'm gonna forget that I'm a moderator because I forgot last time because there's so much great dialogue, okay? So y'all gonna have to help your cousin out, your brother out when it happens. Be like, Jay, you gotta say something, okay? So we're gonna work together with this panel discussion. See, the theme about this part, we're gonna have two, is that this one is about anticipating the integration, okay? And so what we want to understand, integration was not simply an event. It was a process, a season, a tension-filled unfolding. Before unity was visible, anticipation was felt. There were conversations. At kitchen tables, there were whispers of concerns. There were hopes without guarantees. This first segment invites us into that atmosphere. The expectations, the questions, the courage it required to walk into something new. So I would like to invite to the stage first, Miss Shirley Simmons, Fuquay-Varina School, social studies teacher, and student council sponsor. Look at her looking amazing with a sparkling shirt on. Mr. Carl Trice, class of 1967, Fuquay-Varina Consolidated. Brenda Davis Cameron, class of 1967, Lafayette. And our very own Fuquay-Varina Mayor Pro Temp, Marilyn Ballard Garnard, class of 1967, Lafayette. Before we get into the discussion, their beautiful bios are in the program. So we're going to encourage you to read the program to learn about it because we want to save time for the discussion. Don't they look amazing up there? Class of 67, well, y'all look amazing. So we're going to get into these questions. Y'all ready? All righty. So let's talk about setting the stage. Can you describe what the atmosphere was like in Fuquay-Varina, the area, before integration? To help you think through that, what were the expectations? What were the initial feelings as integration approached? Who want to hear it first? They all looked at you, Miss Shirley. You want to go? Can we check the mics, please? Hold on, Miss Shirley. Say something now, Miss Shirley.
Is that better?
We hear you.
Okay. We were teaching, we knew that it was coming, but we didn't exactly know what it would be, and I think everybody was apprehensive. And having taught in integrated school with Indians and whites in South Dakota and in California was an integrated school, I had seen that it worked all right. So I thought it was interesting to get the students involved in it to see what they could do to plan for it.
Okay, wow. So this is amazing. First of all, we're working on the sound. We are going to work on the sound, so I know we hear that reverb. They're going to work on it. I trust them. So give it up for the sound, because I know they're working behind the scenes. And I'm just reiterating, just in case some people didn't hear. You actually worked with integrating of schools before, and it was with indigenous?
I taught in integrated schools.
Oh, and it dealt with the indigenous people, whites, prior to moving to the South to deal with another integration.
Well, I was a Southerner who went with a husband who was in the military.
I got it. So you just had a thing for integration. Okay, I love that. Okay, Mr. Trice, you want to?
Well, in 1967, most of us, as she said, and I agree with her, we were just probably trying to feel our way through this integration system. I will admit, now there were a lot of blacks who were very comfortable staying in their own schools. There's no doubt about it. Now, the reason for that is, no disrespect to anyone else, but our teachers were on top of everything we were doing. They knew our parents. This was like a new area to us. So we weren't as sharp on it as we probably should have been because there was no conversation to the students, which should have been, before we made that big step. Again, in 1967, I was one of the first, along with about 8 others, who came from Consolidated to Fuquay High under the ICT program, which had never been implemented before. And it was different. However, I won't try to play like it was Detroit or Chicago, because it wasn't. The good part, though, was that everybody, being from a small community, knew a lot of the people. I won't say they knew all of the people. So most people knew each other. So it worked fairly good.
Okay, awesome. Mayor Pro Tem or anyone?
The atmosphere of Fuquay-Varina before integration. I remember coming to Fuquay on Saturdays, and this was before integration. This is what I knew as a youth growing up in Wake County. I lived in Kipling, which was a Fuquay address. And as I was about to say, on Saturdays, after working in tobacco all week, we would come to Fuquay to shop. I remember having to go to the back door of the pharmacy.
Yeah. That's a fact.
That's about all I'd say.
Okay. Can I pick it back on that?
Your mic is on.
Not only the pharmacy, to the doctors too. I can remember going to the doctors, and I was a rebel without a cause, and the doctor had he had a section for blacks and a section for whites, and I was determined that I was going to sit on the opposite side. So when the nurses came out and they saw me, they were like, "Oh Lord, what we got here?" So they went back and they told the doctor, this is how small Fuquay was, and he came out and he said, "That's preacher's boy." However, when he and I got in the back, was a whole different story. But he was cool, but I was just showing you how things were. I mean, there was segregation. It was deeply, look at the churches. I mean, even today, everybody going to heaven, but everybody got a different church. When do we bring that, even though we've come a long ways, but when do we bring that together as brothers and sisters, I guess would be a very good question for someone to try to answer and help me with.
We're going to talk about that in discussion too. Look, them preachers. Mayor Pro Tem, tell us.
I would say what Brenda first described was very much what we did too. During the week, my family might go to Fuquay for business or the bank or something like that, but the family always went on Saturday to buy groceries and get the things that we raised or just about everything we ate, we either grew or raised. So we didn't need too many things at the grocery store, but we would come on Saturdays, and I would say, from a position of white privilege, I would say that I didn't even realize until I was maybe in high school that I had not noticed that there were separate areas, but it started, I started noticing that there were inequities in the way a lot of things were done. I had been to the same school for 12 years. This was my 12th year because it was one small school in Harnett County, northern Harnett County, that had, in my graduating class, 29 people. So it was a very small school. And we did. Almost everyone know everybody. Yeah. And, when they started talking about a term called freedom of choice, I think was the first time some of the students got to choose what school they would go to. And there were pioneering families and students who chose the opportunity to integrate with that wave of the first freedom of choice students that were able to do that. I really think, we see so many pioneers in this integration time, and Carl, we had really heard about the Detroits and wherever, and I couldn't imagine what that, might be like in our Fuquay-Varina area because we knew each other. Right. We worked alongside each other in tobacco, and our families respected one another, I felt. So it was interesting to hear news of how things in desegregation were unfolding in other parts of the country that I knew had to be very different from the Fuquay-Varina area.
Okay.
I'd like to
Yes, ma'am.
bring up one more thing. As my memory goes back, us working in tobacco, I must say that we worked together. Marilyn and I handed tobacco together. We lived right across the road from each other. But I remember well when we were working in tobacco, and not just Marilyn's father's tobacco, but in the community, the blacks had to drink out of the same dipper.
They had to what?
I do what?
Had to drink water
Oh, yeah.
out of the same dipper. There was
yeah.
one dipper
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
for the blacks.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah.
And because of that, I think that led our parents to be very determined to make sure that they worked toward a change. Silently, but inwardly, they made sure that they were working on a change.
And I'll tell you this, thank you first of all for just finding the courage to go back. When you're talking about the class of 1967, immediately to hit it home for a lot of people, my oldest brother was born in 1967. So when sometimes we think, oh, that was a long time ago, I want to make sure we understand, like, these are people living that are still dealing with that. So think about the decisions that influence what is happening today. I do want to acknowledge Mayor Pro Tem. Thank you for saying I wasn't aware then, but I'm aware now. And I would tell you, as a Fuquay-Varina resident, that says a lot for me because I need that awareness to constantly drive as we make decisions. So thank you for that.
Well, these things were, they were just happening, and some things were different too, because the people who worked in the fields, like my brothers and our brothers worked together in the tobacco fields too, but they usually had one big gallon jug of ice water, and they passed it around, and everybody drank out of it. So, I mean, it was different at the barn. It was.
And I think this is going to lead into that next question, because I like how you guys are saying that there was some levels of integration before integration took place, but then there were some other areas where, like, no, we were definitely separate, don't get it wrong.
Don't get it twisted.
And for people who, correct, and for people who are like me, who are new to the area and trying to figure out what areas they're talking about, on the backdrop, Fuquay Consolidated and Fuquay Springs were two separate high schools that merged together to create Fuquay-Varina High. The same thing with Shawtown and Lafayette. They actually merged with 4 schools in the area to create Harnett Central, but Shawtown and Lafayette, the names are still retained for elementary schools in the area, but the actual high schools are no longer there, but they all merged to create Harnett Central to kind of help put things in perspective as you're riding around town and thinking about how these mergers impact our local community.
Right.
So next question. Somebody say something? Oh, next question. When integration became real, when the possibility of integration was set in motion, what were your thoughts and feelings? What did you anticipate would change, positively or negatively? Ms. Brenda, I'm gonna start with you. Ms. Brenda.
Oh, Ms. Brenda,
Yep.
okay.
What did I think would change?
Yes, ma'am.
Well,
Positive or negative?
first of all, I must say that I had no feelings at all as far as wanting to be a part of integration. I was at Shawtown as before integration. I was at Shawtown, where 4 schools had come together as high school students. And at the end of my junior year, averages were accumulated for the marshals who would march in front of the seniors at Shawtown, an all-black school. And I was the chief marshal with a 98 average. So I knew that I would be the valedictorian for the class of 1967. But because my mother anticipated a better world for me than what she had. She decided that I was going to go to Lafayette, which was only about, 4 or 5 miles from my home. And I had no choice. I didn't ask any questions. I did not complain, because back in that day and time, parents were in control. They didn't try to be their children's best friend. My mother told me what I was going to do, and I did it. This was 2 years before compulsory integration. So my anticipation was very negative. I loved my Shawtown High School classmates. I had no desire to go to Lafayette, which was about 4 miles from me. I wanted to keep going to Shawtown, where I had to catch the bus, go to the elementary school, change to another bus, and be bused to Shawtown. But I was looking forward to the senior prom, class night. Oh, and I didn't want to leave my boyfriend, who was going to...
Ooh, Miss Brenda.
Who I could picture us dancing at the prom, together. So integration for me was really a disappointment.
Mayor Pro Tem, because you was at the school that was receiving her. Tell us about your experience.
Well,
and y'all knew each other.
Yes, we did. As I said, it was 12 grades at the same school, and it was a very small school. All 12 grades rode the bus together. So I can remember as a first grader riding the bus with seniors. And so for me, I never had to change schools until I went to college. And I just can't, it was hard, as a self-absorbed teenager. I hadn't thought very much about doing it any other way than the way I'd always done it, and growing up in the community with the same people year after year at the same school, and was established, and I belonged to just about every club, and had the same experiences Brenda was talking about, and looked forward to the same things my senior year. And even as a 17-year-old, I could see what she was giving up to come to Lafayette. But it wasn't too long before I matured enough to understand that there was a greater cause than just, choosing to go to a school that might be 1 mile closer or something like that, or not as much trouble as it was for her to go several buses, to get a couple of buses and schools to get to Shawtown. And she could walk right about, we had a long driveway, so my walk was about like hers. She was up on the hill, and she and her little brother came and got on the school bus with me. It was a little weird. Weird is not the right word. A little awkward. The whole thing was, because there was it's just like Carl said, we didn't have any meetings about it. We didn't have any discussion about what it was going to be like. All of a sudden, it was the first day of school, and we had heard, and I'm sure Brenda, they had made the choice she'd be registered at another school, so of course she knew it was coming. And in the community, we heard it was coming too, But it was just a handful of students, and she was the only one in our little 29-member graduating class that came. So she came by herself, and that's, there's a lot of it I don't remember, but I do remember her being alone a lot, and being quiet and kind of staying behind, flying under the radar, not like you would be if you had been in that school for 12 years. I just can't imagine. I didn't have that kind of adjustment until I went to college.
And Marilyn, I'm not going to take up the whole.
No, go ahead.
But Marilyn, as I stated earlier with you, Marilyn was caught between a rock and a hard place, I think. Because as I said, we had worked together as little girls handing tobacco. But our 12th grade year, when I went to Lafayette, yes, my little brother and I did have to walk to her driveway to catch the bus. And the reason I say she was caught between a rock and a hard place, we had worked together for several years, but Marilyn kept herself separate from my little brother and me while we waited on the bus. She did not talk to us, and she was in the same position I think I was. It was just a change that neither one of us was prepared for.
Exactly. Then there was no preparation for it. There really wasn't. I think I could have done a little bit better because I'm a talker. But it was unfamiliar. It was just unfamiliar and awkward.
Mr. Carr, you better get in. Mr. Carr, you better jump in.
Well,
Look, he's such a gentleman. You better dive on in.
I don't want to make Fuquay sound as Fuquay-Varina, because I'm from the Varina side, and I always like to express that. Here's what I can remember, some of the things. I can remember Johanna's restaurant. If we wanted anything to eat, we had to go to the back door. I remember that. I remember the Klan burning signs of whatever they burned, crosses, on the corner of Northwest, also over by the First Baptist Church off of 42. I remember those things. I remember walking from Fuquay, from our funeral home, and a bunch of young guys standing there in the parking lot as I'm going over the overhead bridge into Varina, and they are questioning me, where am I going? And I had a handful of rocks like somebody from Israel. So, what are you doing with those rocks in your hand? And I'm not gonna say too much till I get to the top of that hill, because it was downhill all the way. I do remember those things. However, I must say this, as I said in the beginning, we have to realize the time we were in. That's not saying it was that makes it right. I'm just saying the time we were in made a lot of things that, for instance, they said they lived together, but when we got out of the school element or whatever, we didn't do that much talking. One of the reasons is because, let's be real, the parents did not want their children talking to the Afro-American children. And some of the Afro-American parents told their children, listen, you gotta be cool, you gotta be careful, you gotta watch your step, especially when we went from one school to another. In our own school, integration was great, but here was the problem I see with it. If we would have just been dealt a fair hand, if we would have made a level playing field, we would have been great. We did. Now that's I know some people are gonna take it and run with it. I don't see that we needed all of the things that they did, but give us a level playing field. For instance, you gave us second-rate books, but we had first-rate students. You see, you gave us books that were half of the pages were out, but we still made 100 on the test. So integration was great. I'm not knocking it, but I'm saying if we'd have had a level playing field, it's no telling where I stood. And I hear you say, you had 29, and I thought we had a small class. We had 77. And now I think it's like, 500? But, that's all I'm saying. Make it fair for all level. for the blacks, for the whites, for the reds, the browns, the yellows, whomever, we talk about it. And I think that if that had been done, along with some counseling to the students, instead of just saying, you're going to be integrated, then that might have made, and we still came out pretty good, because we did not have we didn't have a knockdown drag out. But after we adjusted, now remember, anytime there's change, people do not like change, whether it's black, white, or whatever. So, but I do believe if we'd have had some people to talk to us, to brief us, to let us know, as we were when we came over for the ICT program, the do's and the don'ts. Now, we had a teacher, Colonel Waters. I don't know if you remember him or not. About as racist as you're going to get. He flunked every one of us. So we asked him, called in the principals and said, why you flunk all the black students? I can't tell you what it said, but you can imagine, all right? So they hurried up and shipped him out. And then they brought in another very fine teacher, trying to think of his name, know him well. But anyway, and he settled the playing field, made everything very fair, and we all did very well. So, that's the thing I'm saying. Listen, a mind's a terrible thing to waste, but don't take us for granted.
I agree.
One
Before I get to you, Miss Brenda, I want to hear Miss Shirley. Anything you want to add?
No, I think I might add a couple of things here.
Okay.
I think that they're telling the truth and that there wasn't any preparation. We got the first student, McCoy,
That's
under
exactly right.
freedom
Brenda
of
McCoy.
choice.
That's exactly
We watched
right.
her come through, the only student in the school that year. And the students wondered, and we knew she didn't have friends, and we watched it. The student council people talked about it. We all knew what was going on when we were planning activities and doing that. Then the next year, we got about 3, I think. 2 of them played basketball, so they fitted in a little bit better. But we knew that they weren't really part of things, and it was ours and not theirs. And we understood that. And so I think the students, we talked about it a lot. I give credit to 2 outstanding administrators, Mr. Davis from our school and Mr. Freeman from their school.
Okay.
And I talked to him in the student council, and we talked about it, and we said, this is not going to work. We need to come out with what, not mine and not yours, but what's ours.
Right.
And how are we going to do that? Because this is not, I sort of disagree with the way y'all are interpreting it, in that we didn't, Fuquay-Varina High School was Fuquay-Varina High School at that point. It had been that since '66. And it had changed from Fuquay Springs to Fuquay-Varina. So they were actually coming to our school. And it was, the idea was that's not what it ought to be. It ought to be a school for both of us. And how do we make that work? And we would say they love their school just like we love ours. They've got good teachers. They want to stay there. Like Brenda says, they want to go to their own proms. They want to do these things. So how do we make it all of ours? So how can we do it? And we talked to the principals, and we said, I talked to Mr. Davis, and I said, can the student councils over there, can we work it out? And he talked to Mr. Freeman, and we said, well, why not? So I give them credit for allowing students to do it, for allowing students to work out what is important to us, and what do we want to have, and how do we make it work.
Okay.
And that's what we did. And nobody told us what we had to do. Nobody told us how we changed it. If we changed it, nobody told us we did it wrong. Nobody said do it this way.
And
So-
that's when
so
you
to their
changed,
point-
that's when you
so
changed
to their
the
point-
mascots.
So we worked
So to
on
that
it.
point, there wasn't any preparation on either side, but y'all were all trying to figure it out.
We tried to figure it out. We
So-
never heard of it in any other school. We didn't know any other school. We just said, okay, we meet every week. We'll meet with them. We'll start working it out, and we'll have it ready. And so that's what we did the last year with
And
both student councils.
And so just so I can make sure I'm following the history right, 67 is when it was kind of like a pre-integration, and then an integration happened like in 70, 71?
I don't think it was pre-integration, but you might. I mean, I hadn't thought of it that way.
Well, because I know some was
It was just
traveling
one
before
student
it was
coming over.
mandated.
Right.
It was
So-
just one student being in there, and we didn't feel like it was, to me, integration was putting it all together.
Okay, and when did that officially
That
happen?
happened in 70.
Yeah.
Okay, so, but you were traveling to the
So we
school
were,
in
we
67?
were looking at it and
Gotcha.
noticing it and seeing and saying, how do we do it? So in that year, 69 to 70, before we were going to come in the fall of 70, is when we sat down together
Gotcha.
with the 2 student councils to work it out.
That's right.
Got it. Ms. Brenda and then Mayor Pro Temp?
there was a time that I really had to empathize with Marilyn and the other white students because, as I said, I was looking forward to the prom at Shawtown. I had 100, and I think there were about 157 in the senior class. But when I went to Lafayette 2 years before compulsory integration, the principal, I think he did his white students wrong. He didn't allow them to have a class night.
That is correct.
He didn't allow them to have a prom because me being brave enough to be there as the only black, he knew that I would also be at the prom and at the class night with my black friend.
Well,
So he eliminated all activities
yeah.
for,
And I think he had been there, maybe our senior year was his 3rd year, and he it seemed to me systematically, in anticipation of this, did away with some of those events that we had, traditions
and
that
his
we
son
had.
was in our class.
Yeah, and his son was a senior, that's exactly right. But things that were really fun, that we had looked forward to being when it was our class's turn, and when it was our class's turn, we didn't get to do them. So that's one of the things, and one of the ways in our school that they changed some things, trying to make adjustments, I think. And I think Brenda's absolutely right. None of my teachers or administrators, being 17, I'm not sure exactly. I love having Ms. Simmons here,
Definitely.
who can tell us what they were doing, because I didn't even have anybody to ask about it, but I did contact a former teacher that had gone to Lillington to my senior year. And she said, she was a senior English teacher, and she said they didn't have a plan either, but she was concerned, and I think this was probably an issue at our school too, Brenda, that was not, I don't know how it was handled, but I didn't think it was right.
See what happened, guys? They get it to talk and they forget their mics on. It's hard raising these 70-year-olds. I'm trying to tell you. 70 and up, they just do what they want to do. Y'all mics on, Mr. Trice, Miss Shirley.
We're having our own discussion over here.
Black history conversation. Could I just interrupt one thing? I think.
Hold on, but Mayor Pro
Oh,
Tem
I'm
was
sorry.
talking.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'll be quick.
Okay, go ahead.
I contacted a teacher that had been at my school and to ask her, what was the administration doing? What was the faculty doing, And she said they didn't have a plan at Lillington either, but she did say that she had an amazing administrator. She had a wonderful administrator. And she did very much like Ms. Simmons did. She was one that said, we got to do some things in anticipation of of these changes, and we need to do it right, So she said she started it and said instead of having a valedictorian and a salutatorian, there's been in this school 12 years, and having new students come in the senior year. She said they decided not to have a valedictorian or a salutatorian. They had 10 outstanding seniors. And she said it worked beautifully in her school, and that avoided one of the issues that they would have had to address otherwise.
Oh, thank you for that.
And as Brenda said, she was in line to be
The
valedictorian
valedictorian.
at Shawtown.
All right.
Awesome, Ms. Trice.
Yeah, real quickly, one of the things I want to back it up a little bit. See, now when we went to school, you must remember now, the bus came right across the street from our home, but wouldn't pick us up. We had to walk in the rain, and then once we came down Wake Chapel Road and got on, everything was dirt. I know that sounds ancient, but everything was dirt. West Jones, Northwest, all of that was mud. So my point is, I want us to realize and reminisce that when we went to school, it wasn't that easy to get there nor get back on a rainy day because a lot of our parents did not have vehicles. Now, I was fortunate, I guess, but my daddy being the preacher, he knew a lot of people here in the community, so that helped some in helping us to get around and maneuver and deal with different things. But what I'm saying, let's not lose sight of where we came from before the integration and why we might feel the way we feel about integration. You know, if the bus can come right to my front door, but yet you can't pick us up. And it was a bunch of children in Varina during that time coming to school, but we either had to walk the railroad track or we had to come over the overhead bridge and then go down railroad to East Jones, I think it is, and go up. So that was a lot of little, and a nice little walk for little children, and in the mornings and in the afternoons.
First
I
of
just
all,
want to say, when the seniors were not allowed to have any activities, that caused a lot of stress on me because the guys every Saturday and Sunday night, it was either Saturday night or Sunday night, a cross would be burned in my yard.
What's she say?
I didn't even know that.
Oh, yeah.
I did not even know that.
Yeah.
So, and I'm going to bring this in. I have insomnia now, and I'm pretty sure it came from my senior year at Lafayette. It was rough. It was rough, and that's the reason I said, well, maybe I shouldn't be up there because I was, it was really before integration, and I can't really blame Marilyn. And Marilyn and I have talked about this a lot.
I sure have.
And she cries a lot.
just blow our spot up. Look.
She talks a lot, she cries a lot, and it's all true.
Well, I will say this. Thank you for sharing your story. And I'm glad that you didn't back out, Miss Brenda. And Mayor Pro Tem, I'm glad that you are sharing your story. The same thing with you, Mr. Trice and Miss Shirley, because people need to hear this.
Yes.
Oftentimes, we're told that that was so long ago.
You're right.
And you guys are living proof it wasn't that long ago.
That's true.
And we need to hear the full story. See, telling history is not about telling one person's side. It's about giving us a full perspective of what truly happened.
That's true.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Generation.
One thing to add.
And so, look, we're going to have to stop here. Y'all, this is what happened.
One quick, I just want to say thank you.
He told me real quick.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I just want to say thank you to Ms. Simmons for her years
Yes.
and what she went through. See, it's not all about just one side of the fence. What the other side, what the people, everybody went through something. So thank you. We appreciate it. And
I had that written down, but you got it. You got it.
Can I say?
Can y'all give it up for our panelists? Our panelists in this great discussion.
Thank you, Ms.
So, guys, we are about to take a 10-minute intermission. But before we take this 10-minute intermission, I do want us to do a couple of things. I want you to stretch, but I want you to step out into the lobby, but I also want you to greet someone here and invite them to share their story. What haven't you heard? It's not all about what you know. What haven't you heard? As you heard up here, there was some people hearing things for the very first time, and they lived during that time. So I'm going to ask you to also reflect on what was said as it stood out to you. Maybe ask someone nearby what resonated with them most about these stories. Maybe sit with the courage it took to live through what we are not just discussing, but still trying to navigate through today. We will reconvene in 10 minutes. Y'all heard me? How many minutes? 10 minutes. As we continue our journey from anticipating to integration, to once we really embrace the inspirations in integration. Give it up for our panelists one more time. All right. Wasn't that some good information? So I'm going to go ahead and tell my cousins and friends and my aunties and uncles, y'all can go on and take y'all seat because we about to start. Look at them. Help them make them up the stairs. Look, they still talking. It's like I'm doing 2 panel discussions. The one in the audience and the one on the stage. So what we're going to do, because we definitely don't want to belabor the time, we're going to go ahead and get started. Okay? So now we're going to talk about spoken word. History is not only told in textbooks. Sometimes it's carried in the rhythm, breath, and voice. Storytelling tells us what happened. Spoken word tells us how it felt. Poetry compresses decades into moments. It gives language to emotions that were normally or formally recorded. It honors the internal battle that attendance records but cannot show. So please give it up for Mr. Sean Floessence Harris.
I'm excited for this journey ahead. It is finally time to see the new labs and the new books that I've been waiting to find. And although I will miss walking down my school halls, I'm excited for the resources hidden behind those other walls. I'll miss my friends and my teachers that consolidated. They were my guiding light. But it's time to embrace the new tools that'll make my future bright. See, ever since the Brown versus Board of Education put an end to the separation between schools of black and white races, I've been patiently waiting to light a match and build a bridge for a new foundation. See, last night, while mama was ironing my pants and vest, making sure that I looked my Sunday best, she said, son, don't forget the light that you carried in your school halls. The bison will always remain in you, even behind new walls. And her words hit my chest heavy, heavier than the books that I was excited to carry. Because the realization that from now on, every choice that I will be making will set the precedent for academic achievements for an entire generation got my heart racing. I realized that I'm a part of something that is greater than me, a chance to leave behind a lasting legacy. I think about the leaders who came before me, those who stood so tall, leaders like Minnie Jean Brown and the Little Rock Nine, who fought to walk through their school halls. I think about the trials and tribulations that they went through, and I realize that I can make it too. Because when God is an impenetrable and indestructible force around you, there is nothing you can't do. Or what about Dorothy Counts, a pioneer in civil rights? She was the first black female accepted into Charlotte, North Carolina's Harding High. Only one of 40 students accepted into the school. She was alone, facing a new world, representing an entire community in her youth. I think about Dorothy's father, whispering in her ear, reminding her of who she is and where she's from, saying, hold your head high. You are inferior to no one. So as I stand before you, getting ready for my first day of integration, I shall remember those who risked their lives just for me to have a better education. I shall hold my head up high and carry this weight on my shoulders with pride so that those coming after me can have a better life. See, children are the potential we must pour into. Watering their souls, letting them grow on their own, opening the blinds so that truth can shine through. If we say children are our future, then we must leave them a future worth building, instead of a future that needs fixing, a broken world that needs healing. In the 2 years of conversation between Fuquay High and Fuquay High Consolidated, which bridged the gap and addressed the concerns of integration, is the exact reason why our youth can impact an entire generation. See, what I love about our youth in Fuquay is that they're innovators, dream chasers, Give them the seed of knowledge and they'll cultivate it. Build a community with them and they'll graduate it. That's why we must protect their ideas, teach them self-worth, and protect their dignity so they don't lose their identity to a society that's designed to limit their possibilities. Teach them that they are limitless so that they do not limit themselves or their abilities. We must tell them that they are beautiful in every single aspect. We must give them the context of our history so that they know they come from royalty. Let's break the curses of division today so that our youth aren't left with the burden of having to fix wounds they did not make themselves because they do not deserve this. Help them find purpose. Help them find meaning. Help them find a reason to keep going and keep believing. See, what I love about the Fuquay-Varina High School alma mater is that it represents the strength and resilience of our sons and daughters. Solid in our foundation, strength firm as the ground. For it was for freedom and equality that they stood so sound. Guardian lamplights who lit a path so clear so that those coming after would not live in the world with any hate or any fear. In truth we shall stand. In eerie the fight we long. We shall continue marching forward because this is where we belong. Right here on equal footing with the same rights, same liberties, same freedoms to raise our voice and sing this song as a united choice.
We'll give it up for Flow Essence. Wasn't that powerful? Wow. It's kind of hard to transition after that, but that was powerful. Before we move on with the program, look, I had my orders from the first panel. I told you it's hard raising these people that's 70 and plus. One of the things that Mayor Pro Temp and Ms. Brenda wanted to share with you guys, the true revelation and true pivotal moment was that they went to high school as friends, but then their two oldest daughters went to high school as friends and served as cheerleaders together. And that's when it hit them of all the things that they missed and the sacrifices that were made. All that to say that sometimes the revelation of what we've been through does come a little bit later. And sometimes we got to yield to that and give each other grace and saying, wow, I didn't know that then, but I know that now. And they wanted to make sure we shared that story, that's when she said, I get it. I get it. And what I'm grateful for is you got it. It didn't matter when you got it, as long as you got it. So give it up for them, okay? Now we have reflected on the anticipation. Now we can move toward the inspiration. Integration did not end at enrollment. It continued in classrooms, in friendships, and, like they've stated before, in misunderstandings and in growth. What merged from that season? What type of strength was built? What bridges were formed that still stand today? So give it up for our panel discussion panelists. We will have back Miss Shirley Simmons. And if you missed it, she is Fuquay-Varina's High Social Studies teacher and student council sponsor. And proud to say she is 90 years young in her right mind.
You didn't have to tell that.
In her right mind. And she can recall things. She say, don't play with her. I'm like, how she did it? I got 2 teenagers I'm ready to get rid of, and she taking on everybody teenagers for years. Next, we'll give it up for Miss Gail Woolard, class of 1971, Fuquay-Varina High. Miss Gwendolyn Brown, class of 1972, Fuquay-Varina High. And Mr. Teddy Jones, class of 1971, Fuquay-Varina High. Y'all pray my strength through this one. Because now, one of the things we want to talk about, Miss Gail and Mr. Teddy was actually the first graduates of the fully integrated Fuquay-Varina High, kind of something that Miss Shirley talked about earlier. They were the first graduating class when it was officially integrated in 1971, okay? All righty, y'all ready?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Let's talk about moments of connection. Can you share a specific memory, positive or challenging, that illustrates how students from different backgrounds were able to connect and understand one another? Y'all want me to tell you who? Y'all want me to point at somebody?
I'll go ahead.
I'm about to say, y'all so polite.
Okay.
That first panel didn't do it
I
for me.
think that sports, he played football.
Yes, football,
And
basketball.
sports was very joint. We really came together as to support our sports. And other things was certain classmates. You have to remember that there was only 100 kids in each grade. So there was maybe 400 kids in the whole school?
500 maybe.
500, okay, 400 or 500. Not very many. I'm talking about just a high school. And so I became friends with several kids that I had certain classes with. And I think when you had a one-to-one in a class and then on the football and basketball teams, they came together.
You want to add anything to that, Mr. Teddy?
No, we played sports, and it was just something that come up all of a sudden that summer for me. And I was the only black on the team, so I just did it.
So you said you was the only black on the team at the time?
Yes.
Okay. So tell me a little bit about that experience. Like,
Well, it was just one black person was on the team, and that was me. I was on the football team. It was on the basketball team. So, and I just did it. It was something that I wanted to do for school. So I just did it.
You think it was a choice and they just didn't want to come out that year? It was
Well,
probably tough.
nobody else could come across, didn't bother to come over there. So I went to the white school for 1 year.
1 year and played.
but were you playing sports for them beforehand?
Yes.
Okay, and you had to walk from Fuquay Consolidated to Fuquay Springs?
The first year, I walked over there, but the second year, we took a drafting class. And the first year, I went on to play and went to school over there.
Gotcha. And what we have on the screen behind you guys, in case you're wondering, is just the walk, the distance walk from Fuquay Consolidated at that time and Fuquay Springs, where it was located on Inner Street at that time. You was about to ask something, Mr. Teddy?
No, it was pretty fun walk. We did it. We didn't have nothing else to do.
So you did.
Look, I understand.
Yeah.
I don't think I would have made it, Mr. Teddy. You would have added anything, Ms. Gwendolyn?
Well, with me, I had to walk. Because I went in 71. Teddy graduated in 71. I graduated in 72. So I walked, because the only thing I had to do was take 2 classes. So I walked, and interacting with the others, I really didn't do a lot of interacting because I was comfortable at my school, Consolidated. I was comfortable there. Everybody knew each other, and I enjoyed going to school. I don't know about nobody else, but I enjoyed going to school there. But when we had to integrate, I really didn't like it. I didn't care for it, I didn't like it, but I did notice when we got there, there were classes that they were taking that we wasn't offered at our school. Like Teddy said, drafting, accounting, because I took accounting. We wasn't offered it. We were just offered basic stuff at our school. And like the first panel, someone in that class, someone said in the first thing that we had to get all old books. All the old books from the high school came to Consolidated. We had all the old books, we had all the old chairs. We never got anything new. And like they were saying, it was hard to interact. Because like I said, when I got over there, I seen things like they had typing classes. We had typewriters too, but we had their old typewriters. We had the manual kind, like you push down. But when we got to the high school, they had automatic typewriters. So we was always a step behind, like to them, because we always got everything old, and they always got everything new. So, but the teachers we had, and they were great. We had good teachers. And it was just hard to, you know, do that change because of seeing things that we saw, and it bothered us. And I don't think none of us liked it. It's like they said in the beginning, when I used to go downtown, Fuquay, and I remember going in the back doors just to go into the grocery, into the pharmacies, just to get a cheese sandwich and milkshake. We had to go through the back door. We couldn't never go through the front door. We couldn't go in certain stores you couldn't go shopping. And I remember my mom, she used to walk across town to go over and clean for someone in the white section. And just to make ends meet, it was hard for us. So we seen a lot of stuff, and it bothered me. And I'm sure it bothered a lot of us. But we adjusted. We adjusted.
Yes, ma'am.
We had to.
Yes, ma'am. You want to add anything, Miss Shirley?
Well, I can't really speak to that as much as what they're feeling, because I didn't have feelings in it one way or the other, I think, in that thing. I think our thought was, what things can we change and what can we do? We didn't want to do what Marilyn described, where principals cut out things. We thought it was nice to keep what you wanted. So we said, let the students choose what they want. And that was what I think was remarkable. We couldn't do away with the feelings that they loved their school just like we loved our school. And we couldn't do away with the feeling that they might feel left out, or that this would be different, or things would be different. But we could have new things that were not yours, were not mine, but were ours together.
Right.
And that was what we sought to do. And I think it worked very well. And to the point that we finally get to what you described with Marilyn's daughter and Brenda's daughter, when they could work together and be friends. That was what we wanted to happen.
Yes, ma'am. And since we're on that topic, I'm going to go into my second question, and I'll start with you, Ms. Shirley. We're going to talk about the impact on education. How did integration change the learning environment? Something you already talked about. Were the noticeable shifts in curriculum, teaching styles, extracurricular opportunities, or even expectations?
Well, I'm sure we had courses they didn't have. You had to choose electives and do those kinds of things.
So I was like drafting and accounting was too
right.
much, right?
But I was not particularly involved in those. I had high school U.S. history, and everybody had to take it. So somebody had to teach it, and so that was kind of the way it was. And so I think we did very well with those kinds of things. I think where I think we were proudest was of the fact that the students sat down together for that whole year when we met each week, and we would go over to the consolidated school and meet with them. They'd come over and meet with us. We would decide what the things were going to be. We would work on, if it was the motto. We would have a contest and people would turn in things. When we got to the school song, different people wrote songs and sent them in, and we chose one or two, and we put them up, and we voted on them at the white school, and they voted on them at the colored school. I collected ballots, we counted them, and this was going to be our new motto, and this was going to be our new song. So we fixed all that up and had it ready when the school would start in September.
Is that where the current school song came from?
That's right.
Wow.
And
Did y'all know that?
I can tell you who wrote it.
Wow.
Mr. Christmas wrote one of them, and Chip Dorman wrote the other.
Chip. Okay.
So they were the ones adopted. Mr. Myrick liked Tennessee orange. It was to be Tennessee orange.
Yeah.
And black and white. And so that was the color that won. He suggested it, but that's the color that won. Gail didn't like that one. She voted for something else.
I remember, are you done? Can I go ahead? No, I remember, I guess it was my junior year, having a lot of meetings. And they would, I wasn't on the student council, but they would tell us that they had met, and they would tell us a lot of things. So I sat there being probably thinking about something else. But I remember sitting in a lot of meetings. I remember voting on a lot of things. I remember the colors were orange and navy and white, and I definitely voted for navy and white. But I have come to love orange. But that was not my, and we voted on all kinds of things. I just remember having a lot of meetings, and we voted for the colors in the gym, and we had a lot of the other meetings in the auditorium.
Yeah,
I was
we made a point to sell it to the students. We did it in both student bodies. Mrs. Walker and Ms. Rush were really great over there. And when they came over to our school, then Ms. Walker and I shared sponsorships the next year to get it all integrated. And that year, then we had to write a constitution and deal with how to elect things.
Yeah, I remember we had different.
That worked out after we got over there.
There was a lot of discussion about who was going to be president of the class, who was going to be secretary, those kind of things.
We realized that the percentages assuming, I guess, maybe wrongly or rightly, that whites would all vote for whites and blacks would all vote for blacks. So we thought, well, that won't work. So we came up with this idea of if you had a white queen, then you had a black one the next year. And if you had a white president this year, then you had a black one the next year. So we did that with president and vice president. And unfortunately, I think that went on too long because I don't think the students needed to keep it that long. But sometimes the community pressures were, we don't want to give it up. And I guess I got more flack from parents who said, I don't want to give up falcons and I don't want to give up my colors and this and that. But everybody had to face it. It had to happen. So the students just said, yeah, we're going to do it. It's going to be done.
And I thought
in
about
higher ed, and parents still give us flack. I don't know about them parents.
They just had to accept it. That was
Right.
it.
Of course,
Nobody and it worked.
Like Carl said, nobody likes change. And I realized that a lot of things were going to have to change. And it was hard for us seniors because we had been there for 12 years and we were pretty much rooted in that. But we came to agree with it. But I felt sorry for the kids because we still were on the same campus. But I knew they were giving up their campus. And I knew that was really, I knew that had to be hard for them because we still were in the same place. I didn't change. And I had been in the same place for 12 years, where the way the school was on Inner Street was about every 3 years you changed buildings. And when you got back around, you graduated. So you had 4 buildings, so you went around. But I knew it was hard for them. But as far as curriculum, I don't think there was any curriculum change. Their classes were still hard to me. But I don't think that was any.
We didn't have much to say with that. That was set by the state. So
I don't think that changed. I don't remember anything about the curriculum or expectations. I think the teachers expected a lot from all of us.
Anything y'all want to add, Gwendolyn and Mr. Teddy?
No, that's what all there was.
I think
that was the way it was.
We had. I don't know if I ought to tell this story or not.
I feel like you should. If you say you don't need to tell it, I feel like you should.
I carried student council officers and people to conventions a lot. And I had a white student council president and a black vice president named Vanessa Womble. And we went to a convention, and Jim, the president, introduced us as this is my sister and this is our mother and our daddy. And everybody looked at us and said, huh? That was it.
Okay, so moving on to the next question. We want to talk about inspiring future generations. What message would you share with young people today about building, understanding, and bridging divides in their own communities? I feel like Mr. Trice wanted to come back up here to answer this one, but we're going to leave him now.
Well, I have been amazed at the museums, which is where I work most of the time now, and I've been amazed and then realized that we now have a generation who doesn't remember 2 schools. They don't know it ever existed. So when they come through for a tour and we start telling them about the consolidated school and what, they say, huh? So we're past it. But we do need to keep the past and let them know about it.
Yes. Yeah, y'all can give it up. Give it up.
I feel like that too. Always know that you matter and you are somebody, and whatever you think that you can do, you can achieve. And, you know, always help one another and always, you know, help each other to understand like the past and know that the future could get better, because this ain't correct grammar, but I never would have thunk we would have had a black town commissioner and a black mayor, so, and a black president. And we never thought that. So, you know, that's good to us. I mean, we could see change, because back then it was, I would never thought that would ever happen. Never. But it's a good thing. And I can tell that, you know, change is coming, and it's going to continue to come, because we won't stop.
Well, we can see change now, because we got William Harris, and he's working. A lot of people don't realize it yet, but he's going at it. I'm proud of him. He's one of the boys I played with.
He was actually in that class that worked on the new things.
Yes, he was baby a while ago.
Who is it?
That's right.
You got anything, Ms. Gail?
You asked a question. I would hope that my grandchildren would be in an environment where there were many cultures, and they could learn from many different people and see that each person had a lot of value.
I definitely want to take the time to really acknowledge and hit home for certain things. Like Mr. Teddy, you're a trailblazer. Ms. Gail, you're a trailblazer. Y'all were the first graduates of an integrated school. That's part of history, and it's also proof history don't need to be replaced, it just need to be told.
Yeah.
And the walking to the schools before integration, like you and Mr. Trice, that's the forerunner for integration. Whether they said it or not, but that was the testing for integration. So you are a part of everything. So when they talk about a dash more, it started back with you guys.
That's true.
And I'm big on giving people their flowers while they living. Y'all helped change it in the landscape, and it took both sides of it, because people always talk about reaching across the aisle. No, we got to do a little bit more than reaching across the aisle. We got to put some foot to pavement, and y'all literally did that by helping with the pre-integration and the integration and graduating, because a lot of people could have gave up, but y'all didn't. So thank you. So thank you.
Thank you.
Now, I like y'all. Look, y'all on time and everything. Is there anything else y'all want to end? Because we are nearing the end of this panel discussion.
That's
We thank you for including us
Thank
and
you.
getting it done.
Now, you brought materials. Is there anything in them books that
No,
I need to know about before we close this out?
I just brought the annuals in case you asked me who was in the class. 'Cause I knew I wouldn't remember.
Oh, you came ready.
I was on the annual committee, and we did select orange, even though I voted
Now,
otherwise.
this was a new one.
That was the first Beagle.
That's the
Yeah.
first
Yeah,
one.
that's our view.
Yeah, this is the
You should
last
see
one.
how handsome
And if somebody's
Teddy
got, if you had a consolidated one for this last year, we would love to have it. We haven't been able to find it, or any others. And if you wouldn't give them to us, we would love to make a copy of them for the museums.
Oh, that'd be good. That'd be good.
So one of the things that I was hearing from both discussions is the preparation and transportation. Before we transition to music, I want to acknowledge that something that surfaced in that discussion. We heard about the lack of preparation. We heard about transportation. We heard about what it meant to physically move students from one place to another without fully preparing the hearts, systems, or support structures. But transportation is more than buses. Transportation is access. Transportation is opportunity. Transportation is whether pathways are intentional or reactive. When change comes without preparation, individuals carry that weight. We saw that evident today. When preparation meets courage, communities carry each other. We saw that today. Let us learn from that. Between yesterday and tomorrow, there is a dash. Between struggle and breakthrough, there is a dash. Between division and unity, there is a dash. Let us become the dash that is visible expression of hope, access, and togetherness that others will see every day. Let that be the transportation in this season to meet connection. That means accessibility, but it also means we're moving forward together intentionally. Will you be the transportation today? So now we're going to give it up as our panel. Give it up for our panel one more time. Y'all see why I was hard doing rehearsal, because I was like, wait, are we rehearsing? This is the real thing, because that's so much knowledge right there. That's the true riches right there. So as we transition, we're going to have the Fuquay-Varina choir to come out that Miss Shirley already talked about, that's going to sing our alma mater. You guys are welcome to go to the back, or y'all can stay here and listen to them sing. Oh, they said they're going to listen. Yes, ma'am. So let me introduce you to the choir. The first song honored legacy. The next selection honors unity. Please welcome Fuquay-Varina High School under the direction of Mr. Tony Cole. Following the choir, the next voice that you will hear is Fuquay-Varina's very own native, our very own Fuquay-Varina Consolidated alum, and our first black mayor, Mayor William Bill Harris. Give it up for the choir. Like my grandma used to say, sing, babies.
Good afternoon, everybody. What a great program. You know, I've always said one of the things that is the most impactful in healing is conversation. And this afternoon, we've had a conversation. And I just want to talk with you briefly about this afternoon. It's truly an honor to gather as a community to reflect on a chapter in our shared history, the story of integration here in Fuquay-Varina. this is an incredibly challenging topic we have put before you today. When we talk about integration, we often think of big cities and historic landmarks. We think of courtrooms and marches and national headlines. But the truth is, some of the most courageous acts of integration did not only happen in front of the television cameras, they happen right here in Fuquay-Varina. In our schools, in our churches, in our grocery stores, on our front porches, on our playgrounds, and even on our farms and tobacco fields and warehouses. Integration in Fuquay-Varina was not just a policy change, it was personal. It required us as individuals to question our own values and belief systems and stereotypes. What we have heard today is an effort to tell the story of this saga in American history and the local struggles that our community went through to honor the rights outlined in the Constitution. I contend it took 3 steps when we stopped to analyze this journey. It took the courage of ordinary people to meet the challenge. It required faith and moral responsibility. And yes, there was a cost of change. When the U.S. Supreme Court decided Brown versus the Board of Education in 1954, declaring segregation in public schools unconstitutional, the ruling affected the entire nation. But how it unfolded depended on communities, town by town, like our town here in Fuquay-Varina. In places like Little Rock, Arkansas, we saw the bravery of the Little Rock Nine and leaders like Daisy Bates, who stood firm under pressure and resistance. Here in Fuquay-Varina, like small towns across the South and the Midwest, integration, it often looked sort of quieter, but no less courageous. It looked like a white business owner deciding to serve everyone equally. It looked like neighbors deciding to treat each other with dignity, even when the culture around them resisted change. It looked like a black child walking into a previously all-white classroom. It looked like a pastor choosing unity over division. Integration required bravery from children, we've heard this, students, who were simply trying to learn. It required conviction from parents who were protecting their children's future. And it required moral leadership from people who believed that justice was worth the cost. Leaders like Martin Luther King Jr. reminded the nation that integration was not just a legal issue, it was a moral issue. He spoke often in churches, much like gatherings today, he spoke in communities. And he charged people to live out the values that they professed. Here in Fuquay-Varina, in our schools, on our farms, in our local businesses, owners played a major role. Some often resisted integration, others fought through reconciliation. Integration was not simply about sitting together in classrooms or riding buses side by side. It was more about affirming human dignity. Integration forced communities to ask tough questions. Do we honestly believe all people are created equal? Do we practice love beyond comfort? Are we willing to grow as a community? These were not abstract debates. These were conversations at dinner tables, at school board meetings, in the cafes, restaurants, doctor's offices, tobacco fields, and in the pews on Sunday morning. We cannot tell this story honestly without acknowledging that integration was not smooth. It wasn't. There were tensions. There was fear. There was resistance. But the students endured harassment as you've heard today. Families faced economic pressure. Community relationships were strained for a time. But even during difficulty, something powerful was beginning to happen. People began to know one another. Barriers that had existed for generations began to break down, not overnight, but steadily. And once people shared the classroom, the ball fields, the workplaces, the places of worship, something started slowly shifting. Stereotypes weakened. Humanity became visible again. You see, we sometimes underestimate the power that comes from a small community like Fuquay-Varina. Change often in our nation starts at the local level. The progress we see today, the diverse schools, the shared leadership, integrated neighborhoods, it did not happen automatically. It happened because everyday people like us made decisions that we were going to move forward. All the decisions weren't perfect decisions, and some of them certainly were not easy decisions, but they were courageous ones. We still have so much work to do because no matter how many political strides are made, those strides do not mean anything unless there is an economic base to back them up. So as we reflect on our history today, we must also ask this question, and we've heard this theme this afternoon. What does integration mean now? Integration is more than proximity, it's participation. It's more than sitting in the same room, it's sharing opportunity. It's more than a policy, it's about relationships. It is a belief in equity and transparency. The work of building an inclusive community did not end in the 1960s. It continues whenever we begin to look at things a little bit differently, when we support equal access to education, when we stand against discrimination, when we create spaces where every voice can be heard. History is not just something we remember, it is something that we continue. So this afternoon, we honor those students, those teachers, those administrators, those community leaders, those pastors, those parents in a small town like Fuquay-Varina who chose courage over comfort, those who opened doors, those who walked through the doors, those who endured so that future generations could thrive. Their legacy reminds us that change does not always begin in Washington or on television screens. Sometimes it begins on a quiet street in a small town where one person decides simply just to do what's right. Just to do what's right. So here's the question for us today. Here's the question. What does this legacy require of us now, today? They left a legacy for us. This legacy that has been left calls us to be active citizens, to participate. It calls us to have the courage to speak when silence would be easier. It calls us to believe that change is possible. So may we continue that work today. May we strengthen what we and those that we've heard today have begun. And may our community, Fuquay-Varina, always choose unity, dignity, and justice. It is up to us, this generation, to take this, what we've heard today, to the next level. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Y'all give it up for our mayor. Give it up for our mayor.
Thank you so much.
Even though I'm going to have to disagree with him a little bit, we ain't no small town. We got 2 downtowns. change can happen in the metropolitan of Fuquay-Varina. It has been an honor, guys, to be your MC and moderator. Now I'm going to yield it over to members of the key stakeholder committee with Keysandra Flowers, Miss Pinky Struthers, and Miss Katina Bunn. Give it up for the ladies as they come forth. You're going to have to do better than that. Don't make me pump and prime you. You got to do better than that. All right.
Thank you so much for being here. I would like to acknowledge the entire stakeholders group. So would you stand wherever you are so that you can be recognized? Thank you so much.
Now I would like to thank all of our panelists. Thank you for allowing me to call you multiple times, email you, remind you. Thank you for volunteering. You didn't have to do this, but we learned so much because of you. So thank you so much.
And we can never do this without our sponsors and for those who help us. So first, I want to thank the Fuquay-Varina Arts Center. The tech team always makes the front of the stage shine, so thank you all very much. I would like to also thank the town of Fuquay-Varina, Trice Funeral Home, the Friends of the Fuquay-Varina Arts Center, Pinky's Art, the Fuquay-Varina Women's Club, Katina Bunn of Legacy Partner Realty, Harris Tax and Accounting, Commissioner Brian Haynes, and Brainstemology with the Manifest Committee. And I would like for you all to give a round of applause to our moderator, J. Dwayne Garnett. Not only was he a moderator, but when we asked him to do this, he went out and did the research. He actually went out to the sites and he helped create the slides. And we just want to thank each of you for coming out and understanding just how important this is. We are because they were. Thank you.